So today on the show we have Aukrit Unahalekhaka. He is I would say we're friends. I'm going to say we're friends. It's been 6 years since I've been following his journey with Ricult. He is now leading his own fund, investing in mainly biochar projects in Thailand. But Aukrit, before then, spent 8, 9, something like that, years with the company that I mentioned, Ricult. They use satellite imagery to help smallholder farmers make better decisions about their crops and transition, as we'll hear, to more of a fintech model for smallholder farmers. He had some difficulties with that business model, very interesting to learn about. He also advises the Thai government on how to use policy and regulation to create an environment of innovation around sustainability in Thailand. His take on why he believes biochar to be the thing for Thailand to focus on is because he wants to recognize where Thailand can be world leaders. And he thinks biochar is not only a good solution for sustainability, but also something that Thailand is apt to be good at. So very special and interesting conversation for me to talk to him after all this time. And thank you to our partners, as always, Clean Tech Growth Lab. If you're looking to grow in clean tech, they're the people to work with, and the producers of this podcast, Craze and Friends. And with that, I give you Aukrit. Oh, here we are. Thank you to the sponsors. Shouted out just before this. Without them, not be possible to interview awesome people doing awesome things like Aukrit. Welcome.
Thanks, Rick. Has been a while.
It has been a while, and I usually get very excited for conversations, but not many of my conversations have the type of history that we have. I have been following Aukrit. We've spoken only a few times, but I've been following your journey for about 6 or 7 years now. I think everything that you've been doing has been really awesome, and can't do it justice in 45 minutes, an hour, but we'll do our best. So for anyone that doesn't know yet, if you could give a brief overview of who you are and what you're building.
Right, sure. So hi everyone. My name is Aukrit. So now I run nature-based climate tech fund in Thailand called Alpine Capital. But before this, I ran a tech startup called Ricult, which is an agriculture technology company where we use AI and machine learning and satellite technology to help uplift the life of smallholder farmers in Thailand and Southeast Asia. So this company was a spin-off from MIT Accelerator. So I founded with 3 other co-founders from MIT while I was a student over there. So it was about 7-8 years back before the AI boom came about. So I think we were the early movers in terms of using AI technology, using AI to analyze various data to provide it to smallholder farmers especially. And I think we got to the point that we had almost 1 million farmers in Thailand using our platform.
Yeah, that's when I started. I forget how exactly I came about. Your company, it might have been looking around MIT's website or stuff like that. But Recall is an incredible venture. I'm so glad that you guys decided to do that. Something that I am curious about before we get into that journey is: had you always envisioned yourself being a founder, or did it just happen at some point?
Yeah, I think I have this crazy drive that I want to change. I mean, it would be too much an over exaggeration if I said I want to change the world, right? But I mean, if I can change a small part of this world that can make the life of the people better or make the outcome a positive impact to the world, I think that's enough, right? And we can then decide on what's the scale that we are talking about. For me, I'm originally from Thailand. Thailand is still a developing country. So I feel that technology and innovation can definitely be used to help improve some aspect of Thailand. So I think this has always been my inspiration. And when I was looking for jobs, I mean, I went to the US for schooling, came back to Thailand and trying to find a company that I can deliver this impact that I have always been looking for. But I couldn't find any that fits my interest. So that's why I started Ricult around 7 years back. And I think it was quite a journey, in fact. So we raised around 12 million USD, one of the top We became one of the top AgTech company in Thailand. We won the Prime Minister Award Start of the Year 2 times in a row in Thailand as well. So I think it was definitely a great journey, and I think I got to live on and work on something I can wake up and I look forward to working on every day, right? I think that's the goal of being an entrepreneur. But I have to share with you, Blake, that there's up and down, definitely,
Yeah.
right? I think the down may be more than up. And the question is that how do you survive that wave and how do you keep going forward, right? I think luckily I found the problem, the question that I was extremely passionate about
Mhm.
and that I was looking forward to solving every day. I think that's how it's going right now.
So, I would love to do like, 7 whatever episodes on Ricult alone. But if, for the sake of this episode, if you could just give, I guess, a summary somehow of what the journey of Ricult was from when you started it to then when you weren't involved with it anymore, and if also you could focus on how did you come across this problem, and why was it that you created the solution that you did?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in a family. We own a farm in Thailand, right? So I live and breathe doing agriculture, farming in Thailand. Thailand, a country in Southeast Asia, definitely might be known for being one of the top tourist destination in the world, right? I think we are top five with the most tourists every day, every year. But one of the things that people may not know is that Thailand is the top three exporter of agricultural goods in the world, right? If you look at rubbers, where you guys are driving cars, rubber that goes to Michelin, Continental, all these top tier rubber tires, or like Porsche, or like all the F1, like most of the rubbers actually come from Thailand, right? And actually, like sugar, rice, all these agricultural commodity, I think Thailand is one of the top three producers on almost every agricultural commodities. But farmers are living in poverty. So we have a country of around 60 million people. Around 25 million people are farmers, but they are living under 200 USD a month, right? So basically, they have to, that's the income that they have to feed a family of five, family of six, right? So, and the issues with farming is that they don't get monthly income like a salary workers, right? Their income only come when they can sell their crops, right, at the end of the year. So that means that they get one lump sum at one time a year. But if they face drought, they face flood, they face climate change risk, they face insects, various disease outbreak, for example, their income may be zero for that year, right? And what will happen to their family? And I think that got me thinking and decided to think that, oh, can we use technology? Can we use AI? Can we use data to help farmers better manage the risk and help better improve their income, right? So I think that's the main starting point that we got started. And then once we develop an app that farmers can get access to weather data, to satellite data, to various tools to improve their income, we realized that the farmers want access to low low cost financing. What I'm saying is that I feel that farmers are actually like SMEs, small business, right? In order for them to grow, in order for them to invest in new tools, invest in new seed, new fertilizer, they need some financing, right? I mean, if you are like mom and pop shop, yeah, please.
Well, just so at some point your business model turned into small business financing at some
Yeah,
point after you
absolutely. So
developed
we turn
this.
into a
So
fintech.
after how long? After how many years?
So actually, after around 1 to 2 years, we have this idea in mind that we want to be fintech for farmers.
Okay, nice.
It was extremely difficult, but that's what
Well,
we got about.
were you still using the well, I guess then, so your main technology was using satellite information, right?
Mhm.
High quality satellite information and digesting it in a way that made sense for farmers. So
Yep.
at that point, were you simultaneously using that satellite data to assess risk and be able to provide loans for farmers? Is that what you were doing, or was it something different?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. So I mean, if you look at it, Blake, if you go to a bank, right, you're successful entrepreneurs, right, in this space, right? The bank will want to lend money to you because they know that your risk is manageable. Then they can predict your income. When banks want to give loans to someone, right, they look on two things. One is ability to repay the loan, which is how much income or potential income you have to pay the money back.
Hmm.
And two is willingness to repay. what this means is that how honest you are, right? If you're a good or bad person, I mean, you have to have both, right? You have to have the money to pay back, and you must have the will to pay back the money, right?
Okay.
The question is that if you are SMEs, traditional business, it is much easier to understand your risk. But for farming, banks don't understand the risk in this space, right? So that means that the farmers are usually underserved. What underserved means is that if you're a small business in Thailand, you can walk up to a bank and get a loan for 10 to 15 percent interest a year. But if you go to the loan shark middleman, it may goes up to 30 to 50%, right?
That's
That's
crazy. Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, what business can you actually do that generate that much of a return,
So
right?
so then after you identified this and the business model changed, and obviously, so many questions about what that experience was like for you personally, but I guess to get to like the middle section of Ricult, how did you build on this business model? Did it change again, or was this the business model that you ended up growing the company on?
Yeah, so I mean, AgriTech, I have to be honest, like AgriTech is extremely difficult to monetize, right? Like any other startup that in the first early phase, we try to grow our user base. We had a hyper growth era where we onboarded 10,000 users, 20,000 every month, for example, right? And we were growing fast. The question is that how do we monetize enough to be sustainable financially, right?
Mm.
So fintech was one of the angle that we look upon, and two was looking at how we can better monetize our data to agricultural mills, traders, exporter that want to have some visibility into this whole supply chain.
So then, how long in total was it that you were working on Ricult?
I worked on Ricult for 7 years.
So 7 years. So from that midpoint until the end of it, what was your experience exploring this business model?
Oh, I think there's definitely still a business opportunity in this area. We give loans to hundreds of thousands of farmers, right? We were scaling quite well. But as we move on, I realized that I found another opportunity in this agricultural space. I mean,
Yeah.
even though I started my own fund, we started another subsidiary of this fund where we try to do carbon removal through nature, right? Which is still involving farmers very much so, right? We are looking into like how do we help farmers do regenerative agriculture. We are looking at how we can manage the waste better from farming that it can be sold to make into biochar. Biochar can be made into carbon removal, carbon credit, for example, right? I'm looking at other areas where we can still use farmer as a farmer-centric approach, but trying to look at different areas where we can make more money, more income for the farmers, and we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
take some cut along the way. To be honest, right, it's a win-win opportunity for the farmers where if they join on board with our service, they can have higher income, and we can also take some commissions along the way as
Yeah.
well.
So what was the end of Ricult like for you?
Yeah, for me, I exited to my co-founders, and they're still running it. But for me, there are certain issues with agriculture in Thailand that I feel that I really wanted to solve, and it is a very local Thailand specific problems that I mean when I first started Recount, right, um, it was from MIT. So my three other co-founders were fabulous, right? But they are, I mean, in Thai context, they are foreigners, right? They are
Yeah.
two American and one Pakistani. So it would be difficult for them to move to Thailand and do this new venture with me full
Right.
time. So I asked for an opportunity to exit my position and launch this new firm where
Yeah,
we try
yeah.
to look at all these environmental issues in Thailand.
Man, so a part of the mission with this podcast is to help other founder. It's one of the angles, but it's to connect with other founders about the experience of being a founder. And I think something that does not get talked about enough relative to all of the successes and all the good things about entrepreneurship is the idea of knowing when to stop or knowing when to walk away. So could you talk a little bit about your experience of doing that, because that's a lot of your life that you dedicated to that. It's a very difficult decision. What does it look like to finally decide, like, I'm going to walk away from this?
Yeah, I mean, I had definitely a great experience with Ricard, right? And I think for me, my standard, I think it was quite a success. But for me, right, after 7 years, I realized that there are certain other problems that intrigue me, and I feel that I should jump in with this opportunity, right? I think there's an opportunity with AI, generative AI, for example, AI agent, where my new company, we only have 2 staff and we automate most of the operation work through AI, right? I mean, I think that's the opportunity that barely come in, and I feel that this is a window like internet in 1997 to 2000, where I'm pretty sure you were too young at that time, or myself as well, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like very young at that time, right? I
yeah,
couldn't catch that wave, but I feel that this is another AI wave where if we use it well, there are many problems
yeah.
that can create impact as well that AI can definitely solve.
Well,
And I think that's, yeah.
was it a difficult decision for you to walk away?
Oh, definitely, right? I
Yeah.
feel that I'm breaking up, right? I feel that having a company, right? To be honest, it's like getting married to someone, right? The joke that I always had with my wife was that I actually see my co-founders and talk with my co-founders and staff more than I talk with my wife, right? Which is definitely true because I usually go into the office from 8 to 7 to 8 p.m. 8
Yeah.
in the morning, I leave office around 7 p.m., right? So that means that I have just 3-4 hours back
Yeah.
home, have dinner with my wife and sleep, and then wake up and go out again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So basically, if you want to depart from that routine, from all the people, and especially a place where you build from scratch, right? It took me a while to decide, right? But I think we have to choose. I mean, what I realized is that as people get older, as we go through a new phase in life, our priorities start to change
Hmm.
and our preference start to change as well, right? I think like anyone, right? I mean, entrepreneurs are still human, right? What
Yeah.
you like when you're 20s, what you prefer when you're 30s might be different from what you are actually looking forward to when you're 40s, for
Yeah.
example, right? I
Yeah.
think different phase of life have different passion that comes about you, right? But for me, the best thing is to have a conversation, to have an honest conversation with your founders, right? And say that, okay, what's the best way out for everyone? Just don't disappear, right? I think that's the worst thing that you can do. The worst thing is that I just come up to the team and say, "Oh, I'm quitting tomorrow," right? And they
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
any succession plan, right? But for me, we had like almost a year that we plan out that each of us will focus on different things, and I think that's the best for everyone.
Okay, yeah. So that's extremely helpful. So when you said it took you a while, did you mean like a couple months or did you mean a year or multiple
Several
years?
months actually, several months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So okay, thank you for that context. Like I said, so many more questions about that journey,
Mm.
but for the sake of this episode, between Ricult and your journey now, you did some work with the Thai government. Is that true?
Right. So I became the AI advisor to the Prime Minister office. Right. So basically, that's why I'm saying that I have this interest of using AI and see how AI can drive change to society. And Thailand is a big agricultural and food country, right? So I was looking at how AI can help drive this sector specifically.
So then quickly to change perspectives from a founder to a government leader, how were you thinking about supporting ag tech, clean tech, this sector, these farmers that you've been working with for a long time? How were you thinking? How does the government think about supporting this sector? Like is the only, well, they have the capacity to write legislation, to pass policies, create compliance, and then also distribute funds. So were you involved at all with any of that?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. And I think that provide me with some interesting perspective when definitely when I was helping the government team, right? It was a parliament that was involved with. So basically, if you look into clean tech, right, I have to say that the US are doing quite well, I would have to say, in terms of the policy to, okay, let's put it this way. When you create an innovation, right, you come up with a new technology like clean tech, agri-tech, and so on. To be honest, you need some subsidy, or else the market will not adopt on its own. And if you're waiting for the market to function and work itself out, I don't think it will work out, right? Because it will take too slow for people to adopt, right? But with subsidies, with government policy, that's where the push comes in, right? If you look at the history of U.S. renewable energy or clean tech history, right, it was driven through many policy and many subsidies to get it up and running, right? And once you hit that point where, let's say, for example, solar is cheap enough, now people just buy it because it makes perfect sense because solar panel is cheaper than, I mean, in Thailand at least, right? Putting a solar panel is cheaper than paying for electricity from the government, right? Because
Yeah.
the Chinese solar panel is very cheap right now with the technology, right? And that's where this sustainable technology, clean tech, become the norms, right? But you need that government push, right? And the problem is that sometimes in countries like Thailand or emerging country, right, we are not as good as the US or Europe, where they know when to push innovation and how to push it. In Thailand, we might have some random policy here and there, and that's where I go in and help, right? Putting my entrepreneur's perspective and sharing my startup journeys, because unless they understand how entrepreneurs actually think and face, they will not be able to come up with a good policy, right? Or
Right.
else it will be like a very theoretical, academic kind of policy rather than something that from the ground. And that's where I'm trying to bring my perspective in.
So what does a good because there's always the conversation about how involved should the government be in
Yeah.
things like business, entrepreneurship, innovation, and any of those areas. So from your perspective, what is the an ideal how involved should government be?
Okay, so if you look from the entrepreneur point of view, right? In my opinion, there are two things that are most important for early stage founders, at least in my opinion, right? Three things. Let's say there are three things. One,
Three.
you have to identify the right problem that is big enough for you to solve, right? Big enough means that the impact is big enough for you to care about. And two, hopefully there is big enough market size that you can actually survive and become business in this area, right? So one is problem. Two, you have to have good enough innovative solution that you can go in and capture the market on, right? Pretty much you solve the problem, you create values, and how do you capture the values, right? That's the second part, right? And third, which I think maybe entrepreneurs 10 years back when I first started didn't really care much about, but right now the fundraising scene is quite difficult, to be honest. At least in Asia, it's very difficult compared to
Okay.
7 years, 10 years ago. So the most important things right now in a new company is cash flow. Cash flows means that you have income more than outcome, and you have to think about your runway, how many months you have that your company can survive and pay your staff, pay for everything, right? And I think this is where the government is really important, is that if you want an innovation to scale, if you want this technology to have the right opportunity to go to the market, government have to provide some policy that extend the runway of this company, right? Or else this company will not survive, they'll run out of cash and burn out, and the economy will not have new innovation,
Got
right?
it.
So if you look at that standpoint, there are several ways that government can do to extend the runway. One, they just provide grants, right? Let's say, oh,
Yeah.
100,000 USD, a million USD, just go out and build something, right? I think that's the best thing possible. But not so many countries have that kind of
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
Two, you actually subsidize the 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 the, the, the price of your service. For example, if I sell a solar panels for 1,000 USD, people might not adopt, but the government say, okay, I'll pay 50-50. I will have a coupon where if you buy a solar panel, the government, you can reimburse 50% back. I think that will start driving adoption. And I think I'm saying that with electric vehicle in Thailand. So in electric vehicle in Thailand, the government are providing this type of subsidies where it is much
Wow.
cheaper to buy an EV car than a diesel car or benzene car, for example, right?
Interesting.
And I think this type of things we can learn from that sector and apply to AgTech or clean tech in other areas as well, right? So
Okay.
the main goal is that how do we extend the runway of this innovative company that they can survive long enough to establish themselves and become the norm of the market. I think that's the way to go.
Got it. Oh, that was so cool. Thank you for that. That was like a university lecture, man. That was so good, laid out. That really excites me. That's really helpful, that framework of thinking. So finally, I appreciate you giving the context to Ricult and also what you were doing with the government. And now I want to hear more about this current venture that you're talking about. So you said it's a fund. You're looking to invest in companies, but what specifically is your thesis and why this direction?
Yeah, so this is that we are both a fund and also venture builders. So pretty much what we do is that we deploy capital to innovative company that solve climate or nature-based issues in Thailand. And on the other side, we also have venture builders, which means that if we see opportunity, we will also build our own. So it's pretty much entrepreneurship under a fund, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so pretty much we fund our early growth stage, and luckily we got some good LPs. And for example, two things I'm looking into now is that one is biochar. Biochar is pretty much, if you follow the carbon removal words right now, right? The carbon credit, carbon removal words, right? Biochar is the only, I don't want to say only because it can be controversial, but let's say that it is the cheapest proven technology right now that can capture carbon at a large scale. Let's put it this way. For example, right, you can buy a carbon credit of biochar for like 130 to 150 USD per ton. But if you go to like CCUS, carbon capture, enhanced rock weathering, or those other technology, the price can go up to 500 to 700 USD per ton, right? So pretty much biochar is the cheapest uh, technology right now, right? And the reason that I'm interested in this is that global South company, which means like Thailand, Brazil, India, all these like developing emerging country will have advantage. One of the few advantage over developed country like the US or Europe. Do you know why?
I don't.
The reason is because biochar is made from agricultural waste, right? So pretty much let's put it, the poorer the country you are, the more agricultural waste you have because most of your
Interesting.
population are farmers, right?
Right.
So that means that if your country is not so well off, 30-40% of your population are farmers, that means that you have a tons of agricultural waste available that you can turn into biochar. And this is an opportunity that you can monetize on this and help farmers actually have a higher income, right?
So yeah, I'm not super well read on biochar, but from what I have read, I do believe there are some uh, pushback on the idea of biochar as far as like people just using it and then dumping it somewhere. So what are some misconceptions
Yeah.
or drawbacks of
So,
biochar?
so, so, so I mean, I think Biochar is still developing, right? But I see some opportunities, right? Okay, first of all, right, where does the biochar feedstocks come from? Agricultural waste, right?
Okay.
And you turn it into biochar. But to make this an interesting, appealing carbon credit to buyers or off-takers is that it must have a co-benefits. Co-benefits means that, oh, you are not only making biochar, but you have to contribute something back to the community or the society as well. What this means is that biochar is fascinating. Do you know biochar? Biochar is it's like charcoal. It's a
Hmm.
black thing, right? But the fascinating thing about biochar is that it has a tons of hole in this small black thing, right? The surface area is huge, right?
Hmm.
What this means is that if you bring it back and put into the soil for the farmers can have better soil, which means that they can have a higher productivity out of biochar. So biochar is pretty much charging and making the soil better. And another angle that I'm looking into is using it as a construction material. Do you know that you can make the road asphalt carbon
Mm.
negative by adding biochar into the road, for example?
So it would be adding, not just not making it
Replacing,
completely
you're
biochar.
replacing certain part. So let's say for a road, right, you have an asphalt means that the thing that you put on the road, right?
Yep.
You can replace 10% of the material in the road with biochar in,
I see.
right? And biochar is carbon capture, which means that um the carbon emission of this
Yeah, yeah.
road can become negative, for example.
So remind me, how does this stuff get made? Are farms themselves able to make it, or do they have to export their waste to a facility that creates biochar and then receive it again?
Yeah, so basically my concept is that what I'm doing right now in Thailand is that we have a small facility, right, of biochar machine, a small decentralized version. It is placed throughout the whole community in Thailand. What we try to do is that one village we will have one machine. The farmers can collect waste. Let's say they harvest their rice, their corn, their sugarcane. They can bring the waste. They can drive within 5 to 10 miles into this village center, right? And they can get income from selling the waste, which normally it is zero, right? There's no use of this waste. Basically, they can get this income. Once we make it into biochar, our business model is that we sell the carbon credit to people who want to offset their carbon credit, right? But on the other hand, we give some portion of this black physical biochar back to the farmer as well, so that they can use it in the soil and have an even higher income, right? So that farmers can see the benefit of this project.
Got it. Got it. Got it. What are some arguments against the use of biochar? Like what are people saying as far as like some people that don't think that it's a viable technology to use?
I mean, I feel that if everyone go and read, right, I feel that as a carbon removal, I think I mean, fact and figure can say for itself, right? If you look at the sales of carbon removal, carbon credit in the past year, 80% actually came from biochar,
Yeah.
right? I mean, obviously there might be some controversy or some pushback. They might say that, oh, by focusing too much on biochar, you're losing that push on other technology that can be
Okay.
faster, for example, right?
Okay.
But biochar, there's still a limit. There's a limited agricultural waste available in this world, right?
Right. Right.
So pretty much it's not enough to make the world achieve the net zero goals. In order to achieve that goal, you still have to invest in carbon capture technology,
Right.
invest in other advanced technology. I think the pushback is that this low price of biochar and the abundance of carbon credit right now might slow down other technology adoption.
I see.
But for me, I think it has to go hand in hand and go together.
Right. Right. And do you see that happening at least in the ecosystem in Thailand right now with the everything developing together? These types of, like you said, the adoption of solar is high in Thailand. That's
Yeah.
right. So
So this is my view, right? I feel that Thailand will not be able to compete on advanced carbon capture technology with the US or Europe because our innovation capability are not that high, to be honest. But if we compete on biochar, I think Thailand can be top 3 in the world
yeah.
in terms of biochar carbon credit because we have abundant of agricultural waste and we have almost 20 million farmers, right? So for me, right, when I speak with the government, I tend to tell them that we should focus on what we are good at and have competitive advantage on, rather than just competing heads on against China, against Europe,
Yeah.
or against US on things that we have no chance.
Nice. All right, two last questions for you. My first one is in the current venture that you're building, with this mission, this biochar, this investing. What is the biggest hurdle for you, and how is it also an opportunity?
I think biggest hurdle for me is to still to find the right LP or investor or off-taker of carbon credit because to be honest, the sustainability climate world, I mean at least from this part of the world where I'm from Thailand, from Asia, it has been slower than I would have expected.
Okay.
In terms of off-takes, they are not the voluntary carbon
Yep.
market are not so active, right?
Okay.
And the regulation doesn't really come in, right? The question is that how do we, without carbon credit money, financial flow from carbon credit or this carbon market, biochar project would not be able to survive.
Right.
Not even talking about all the other advanced technology, right? I mean, if biochar, which is cheaper, easier to manage, cannot survive, the bigger highly innovative, high-tech carbon capture technology would not be able to exist as well, right? So I think I'm still waiting for this sustainability, carbon credit market, and all this trend to pick up, and the market to have more liquidity.
Cool. And then lastly, Aukrit, for you, what inspires you?
You know, what inspired me is that I feel that what I'm doing is not just for myself, but for the community. You know, you can see that, oh, if farmers have high income, the children can afford to go to get a better education, can get a better way of life. The sad thing about children of farmers in Thailand is that they have to quit school at 12, 13 years old, pretty much middle school, because they have no income. So they have to get a job as a labor, right, to help support their family, right? This is very sad, right? If you want to help develop the rural community in Thailand, right? So I think that's the thing that I'm very, very passionate about. I actually created a financial model. So that's the nerdy side of me, right? I created a financial model of income and expense of farmers and rural people to see that, oh, if I want to, let's say, I set a goal. If I want to increase the income by 30%, 40%, what are the things that I need to do? And I think I'm on path of getting there, right? Because with
Wow.
all this technology to help improve the yield of the farming, all this potential way to sell the waste to biochar plant, carbon credit money coming in with regen agriculture, I think I'm trying to set up this financial flow that can help uplift these farmers, and you can see the impact toward the community, right?
That is
And Blake,
cool.
I have to tell you, right? If you run a normal tech startup and you call a customer,
Yeah.
they might hang up on you, or
Right.
they don't want to talk with you. But for me, right, when I call my farmers who are my customers, right, and friends, right, they will say, "Oh, how are you doing? Do you want to come drop by my house and I will get you some food and some fruits, for example?" Right? I think that's the great things about working with farmers, and they feel that you are helping them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, I'm telling you, like, this was what, 30, 40 minutes, something like that. I have been following you for a long time, and you're definitely, I mean, it's no surprise farmers receive you that way. It's very inspiring, the work that you do, how you go about it, Aukrit. So I would love to have more conversations, talk about your perspective, your experience. I think you have great things to say, and what you've shared today has been super helpful. If anyone else was inspired to follow along, what's the best way to get in touch or learn about your journey?
Yeah, just add my LinkedIn. I try to be active on there, so share my journeys and different projects that we are doing across Asia at the moment.
Nice. Well, awesome. Well, again, thank you. This is super cool for me. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. It has been a pleasant conversation. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.